Hey guys, and welcome back to another video on the channel. In this video, I thought because we did have a rain out last night in the BBL that I should get on into some AFL Fantasy chat again. I think that'll be what I do across the rest of the BBL Supercoach, regular season, etc. because of rainouts, etc. If they do happen, I know that we are tracking another one on Saturday for the SCG game, so Saturday the 11th, but then again we also have a night game there, so it probably won't happen. But anytime that we do have a potential rain out, the following day will be AFL content, I believe. So yeah, that's that. And I think for the moment now, with the lead into the AFL season, with both Fantasy and Supercoach, I'm willing to do it in both for this for player comparisons, I think. Or just player previews, etc. So I'll put up a post on my community tab on YouTube as well as on my Twitter, just asking for players to preview, especially some of the, you'll get the common guys like the Kitty Colemans, the Callum Mills, etc. I'll do those guys. But the more niche guys, I reckon, you can also put them there, and I'll see if I can get to them. But anyway, this is the AFL Fantasy Premium Defenders. I put a line at 875k for those guys. And I think this gives us a little bit more time, especially with the Primos being so few, that we can actually talk about those guys on the early buy and sort of say, well, they're not in exactly a straight no, but they're more of a, we need them to go above this line to realistically be a yes. So anyway, let's just jump in and get through this. So you'll see here actually a slight team update video, and there'll probably be a team update by the time that I get through all of these, so that you'll be able to piece it. You won't be able to fully piece it together by the time that I do another team update, which will probably be on the 21st or 22nd, so another 10 to 12 days. But no Harry Sheezel in the side at the moment for me personally, and there's just reasons around this at the moment that I'm trying to hunt value. And the problem with Sheezel at the moment is, I know that I said that the stats suggest that he goes 110, 112 in the midfield, no matter what CBA sort of percentage it is. I don't know if I've really seen him in a forward pocket per se, as much, and I just have a worry that that's sort of the role that we get him, and instead of going 115 or 112 or whatever, he goes like a 95, and I know that that's still putting up a decent score. It's just that I'm worried that we're going to lose effectively about 150k in value because of that. So that's why Harry Sheezel is one that I'm tentatively sort of passing away for other value. I do really like the St Kilda backs at the moment. Whatever happens in that scenario, I think you'll get the mid-price, you'll get me talk about them in both the rookies, the mid-prices, and the primos. All of the St Kilda backmen sort of almost distributors fall under that category of being interesting. And for that reason, I've sort of stayed away from Harry Sheezel. I think also there's the Mills and the Perrymans and the Colemans, etc., and the Kane Farrells and guys, the Port backline as well is interesting. So for that reason, I do think that there's going to be value across the board. We just have to find it in the defenders line, because if you can find that sort of 15-pointer guy, even if it's just from like a 65 to an 80 or a 60 to, or a 60 at that point probably is defunct. But even if it's just that guy that goes from 85 to 100 or 80 to 95 or 80 to 90, rather than Harry Sheezel, who I'm probably going to predict that he goes -7 or 8 and goes 105, at least for the first little bit. Against, let's just look at it. It hasn't actually updated or whatever. So yeah, I'll have to see about the projector or whatever. But anyway, Harry Sheezel, I sort of predict that he will probably stink it up and a little bit, and he's going to go 105, 106, and I feel like you can pick him up a little bit later. I don't necessarily see a run for him early on. He does have the round 12 bye, which is going to be quite hard to actually sort of upgrade into early, but we'll just have to see how he tracks across the first couple of weeks and how he does against the likes of the Western Bulldogs. If we just go to here and go to Harry Sheezel himself, we can kind of get these stats, I guess, in a nutshell. Let's go to Harry Sheezel. Here we go. and just see how does he go against the Western Bulldogs. Against the Western Bulldogs, he's played them twice, is that for 94.5. And he's got a high of 98 and a low of 91, so he's sort of done very consistent. So it'll be interesting to see what he does, because he did have the 25% CBAs, one kick in against the Western Bulldogs last time out. That could be something similar that he does anyway. And then he plays the game after that against Melbourne. And Melbourne is a team where he averages around about the same as well. He's played them 3 times, a 126, a 53, and a 111. The 53 I felt like was slightly injured last year, I'm pretty sure. Or the year before, sorry. Oh, I don't know exactly. But it's an interesting case that, he's gone and done effectively of these two opponents having 25% CBAs. He's gone and done about a 102 or 3 or something like that. So I can just easily see him just regressing a little bit. We know that the top scorers, and I know he's not exactly the top scorer. I'm pretty sure he isn't. But he is in the top 3, and we know that top 3 scorers genuinely decrease by 8 to 10 points or so, I'm pretty sure. It'll be interesting to see how he goes or whatnot. Then we get to Lachie Whitfield, and Lachie early bye just sucks. Him and Gold Coast, GWS and Gold Coast have the early bye, so I just don't see him being valuable. I know that I said that I'd go into more depth. I think he has to go like 117, 118 to be valuable, and just with the early bye and looking at the run here after it, I feel like he's just a massive upgrade target here looking at this, and I think you can start to really stack your backlines quite quickly. After that, I think you can almost move on from Pitling and guys like that and just try that M4, M5 midfielder and upgrade them to that key defender very, very quickly, because he has the perfect buy. I would be jumping on Lachie Whitfield after he sits, honestly, because he's got Hawthorn. Let's actually just check. What did Whitfield do against Hawthorn? I mean, he would have potentially an early... he would potentially have a tag in that game, but... If we just look at Whitfield here against Hawthorn, he averages like 100. So Ed has gone pretty big against them the last 2 times. He played them twice in 2024 for big scores and has gone 80 plus against them since 2014. So I'm pretty confident in Lachie Whitfield that if we just go here, he's got Hawthorn, West Coast and St Kilda. If we go to all of those teams, St Kilda is one of his worst, but I wouldn't be surprised if this has potentially an injury game. No, just a couple of years of him stinking it up. But him in the last sort of 5 years against St Kilda has been ultra consistent. And then against West Coast as well, we've seen him put up monster scores, him not going below 80 since 2016. So it just shows to you, I think, that he has a really kind run post that bye. But I'm not intrigued about him early on, because I feel like... And this is the problem with Whitfield, and I said this basically in everything as well, is that Whitfield, if you can get him in round 4, say we get him in round 4, right? 1, 2, or in round 5, say, he'll have 3 games compared to others 4. You just need to, for the same total points, realistically speaking, without the reduction or the reduction of the 60-point cover or whatever, if he was to go 110 or 111, say, that's roughly about 334 points. For those 4, I believe it's about an 86 or so to cover 334 per average. 334 divided by 4 is 83.5. So you just need to get someone that's averaging 28 points less than Lachie Whitfield, 28 times the magic number. So you can save, if you can get Lachie Whitfield by round 5, if you can get him by the St Kilda game, you can save 287,000 if guys were just going the exact same price point that they were priced at. And I know Lachie Whitfield could go 120, but you could also get the 83-pointer, say a Callum Mills, and suddenly he's going well above that and matching Lachie Whitfield or whatever, or even bettering Lachie Whitfield or whatever. Or someone of that point, maybe a Kane Farrell or something like that can potentially outscore Lachie Whitfield in the first 4 weeks. And then suddenly you're just like, okay, Kane Farrell with a rookie up to a primo. And suddenly you've got another primo scorer for the back end. Because I believe this is the that this is the likes of, well, everyone's actually off the buys at that point, I believe, in round 5. But if you can potentially get him up really extremely early, like this game here or this game here, then suddenly you have one of the best scorers from last year when you've got best 18 and you've already turned a sort of mid-pricer-ish to a primo, just like that, and one of the better primos in the back line, like a top 6 defender. So that's sort of what I'm looking at for Lockie Whitfield, Dane Zorko, Sam Flanders, even Nick Martin. I think these guys will all be near enough the top 6. And you see here Jack Sinclair there. I think these guys will be Sam Flanders, Dane Zorko, Lockie Whitfield, Harry Sheasel, Sinclair, Wanganeen Malira, and Nick Martin will all sort of make up that top 8 or so. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, probably 8. Luke Ryan in that top 8 as well. I don't think Nick Newman will be there. But those are sort of your top 8 guys. And if you can get 6 out of the top 8, you're doing well. But it's just a matter of getting these guys when they're effectively getting your full points per game, rather than getting a 2 or 3 average less because they still have to sit an extra game. So you really just want to maximize total points, and that's how you're going to do it, is get those guys that are actually playing on in those games rather than guys that are sitting, even if you take in the 60 coverage or whatever score. Dane Zorko, I think same theory applies, but I think he might be one that actually dips very, very hard. He's probably one of the ones that I'm looking at and going, you might not be top 6 defender line this year, because they've got Katie Coleman back there again, back there this year as well. I think also Dane Zorko could be used as sort of a utility Mr. Fix-It or whatever. Could be run on, I haven't seen him on the wings, or at least in memory, but I feel like he could sort of go there, could stay at half back, could go to half forward, etc. We'll have to just wait and see. But I feel like he's more of the mold of Mr. Fix-It alongside like a Callum Mills or something like that than all the other guys. Sam Flanders, we've sort of seen a shift in what he does, and I know a lot of people are choosing him because of the West Coast matchup, but he effectively has one game, and I just don't think you can pick him on one game, because even if he goes 140, I feel like any player that you pick with some level of confidence should be able to beat a 140 across 2 weeks. Any guy that's priced at 75 plus should be able to do that pretty confidently. So that's why I think Sam Flanders, even though he's got the really kind matchup, it might be even more pricey at 1.13 million after that matchup against West Coast. I don't think you can go there. I think you can potentially go in this run here. I do like this run north. Richmond, Sydney is a little bit iffy, but they do play at home. Brisbane and then Western Bulldogs. So I think there is a run there of him only with one tag in about 5, 6, 7 weeks, and just with a really kind run. So that will be an interesting watch. But I just don't think with that early buy you can start him. Nick Martin, I think, is one of the ones that you may potentially look at starting. I think latest of the early buys. And this year you also have to remember that we had round 6 as one of the early buys last year, and now I think it's only round 4 if I remember correctly. I think it goes 2-4-2. So they're really getting those early buys in quickly. So I think it almost hurts these premiums even more so than last year that the early buys are earlier than they are this year, especially because none of the teams have a really good run, I feel like, for the early buys. No one faces West Coast Eagles, Richmond, North Melbourne 2 out of the 3 or something like that, or 3 out of the 4 or something like that. I don't think in the first 4 rounds or whatever. So I don't think you can go there. And that's why I think you should almost be sticking clear of these guys and just waiting it out. Because if they drop one stinker in the first 3 games, you're pretty much behind the 8 ball compared to one of the guys like, say, a Callum Mills or whatever. He could average a 95 and still be well more valuable than a Nick Martin, or just as valuable almost as a Nick Martin going a 120 or a 105, or even Nick Martin at his price tag. Like, for Nick Martin to be valuable with the early buy, compared to some guy picking him up in round 5, you'd have to be looking at Nick Martin going 120 across the 3 weeks, which is possible. I just don't see it happening, especially if he has one stinker in him. Newman, I think he's one that some people have picked up on just because he does have a really kind fixture to start with. But he's just ultra inconsistent. And I think with Doherty there, I just don't really like the Nick Martin play. I was on him in sort of preseason, but there's guys there trending down back that may not play there in the long run. But you've got Nick Newman, you've got Sam Doherty, you've got big point scorers or historical point scorers coming back. You've got even Shearer coming into the midfield. It's like, where is that market share going to come from? Because you can't just predict Carlton to go and score an extra 80 points per game or whatever that they're going to have to pick up or whatever, because you've got guys coming in, etc. Even where's the points going to be for Jagger, etc. Where is that going to come off of is the big question. And so I'm just wondering if it's going to shift from some of their backmen to a lot of their midfield that scores points, etc. And some of Nick Newman's points goes to like a Doherty, etc. So it'll be interesting. I'll monitor that. Nick Newman's one that I like to have more data on than to play straight away, as I feel like the last 2 years he's gone bang to end the season. And so, yeah, I just want to wait with him, even though his fixtures really kind of start. Luke Ryan is certainly another guy. I think he has the really good buy as well. Round 13, I'm pretty sure them and Port Adelaide it might be again. I swear they had the same. They had a two-team buy last year with Port or something like that. So they're really interesting. He has the perfect buy, I believe, in 13. And he has a kindish start with Geelong, Sydney, West Coast, Western Bulldogs, Richmond, Melbourne, Adelaide, and St Kilda. That's a really kind opening 8. So will be interesting to see how he goes. I don't know how owned is he at the moment. 2.74, so very, very pod territory. I just don't know with the words of Longmire that you can go there, given that they probably want to shift it a little bit more. I'd be more confident in like a Jordan Clark or something than a Luke Ryan. Sinclair's going to do Sinclair type things. I feel like Riley Bonner's going to be removed from that backline. And I feel like, and Battle as well. But you're going to replace him with Tyru, Troby, Travalia, Ari Schoenmaker. So I feel like those guys are going to be the ones that pick up the most of the slack from Bonner and stuff like that. But I feel like there's enough there that both Sinclair and Wanganeen-Malera can at least hold value, if not gain 1 or 2 points. So I feel like Sinclair is just the safest bet, to be honest, in that St Kilda backline. So that's why I'd be looking at him, especially because I don't really see a tag coming until until round 5. But the Giants don't tag a defender. So that really leans into the point of maybe a Chincotta or something like that tags in round 9. I don't think so. So I really think that Jack Sinclair has a really kind run to start. And he's also got that round 13 bye. So it is the St Kilda Saints that have that round 13 bye. So yeah, no, that's what it was. So yeah, they have a really kind bye alongside Fremantle, if my memory is correct. So I just really like that play there. Wanganeen-Malera, I think, is a little bit more of the going for value than a Sinclair is just consistency. So I'd be starting Sinclair over Wanganeen-Malera, but you could go the double combo there. I just worry if you have the double combo, plus you have McRae, plus you have Philippou, plus you have Travalia, plus you have Marshall, you're starting to get up to too many guys from the one side that they'll just almost naturally be taking points off each other. So that's why I feel like Wanganeen-Malera is probably the one that I'd skip over. Jordan Clark, same sort of theory applies with Luke Ryan, but I think he's more of the safer bet just because he was genuinely able to create drive from when he was using the ball, whereas I don't believe Luke Ryan was using the ball that effectively in creating attacks compared to Jordan Clark. But that's just the eye test. Holmes has the early buy, in round 3. I just don't like this player as much, but he is the type of player that could go bang, and we'd have to look at this. But yeah, he's the type of player that you could see in opening round going boom, and suddenly he goes 120, 130, looks integral to the Geelong Cats outfit, and then suddenly he's the guy that goes plus 15, even with the early buy. So he is one of those guys in that price range that I'm looking at and going, he could be crucial. So I think he's a massive watch. Dan Houston doesn't play round 0 and has, so we won't get a look at him, and he doesn't get that double price jump. So yeah, I'm not looking at him at all. Bailey Dale at 950k. An interesting guy has North first up. He definitely is somehow in and around the conversation just because of all the players that are on the early bye. I just don't like this fixture to start, to be honest with you. The first 5 rounds, he's got probably, you'd say, almost 4 tough fixtures. I haven't looked at the positional per team or whatever, but you just feel like, and that obviously can change year on year, but you just feel like these type of games against top 8 caliber teams in Collingwood, Carlton, Freo, and also Brisbane, it's going to be a tough run. And then he gets one off game, and then he has Giants, Port. He also has Gold Coast at Gold Coast. And then he has Essendon and Geelong at Geelong is pretty tough. And then he also has his second half of the year is a lot easier, you would think, with Richmond, North, Essendon again, and the likes of West Coast. So a little bit easier second half, but still wouldn't go there. Duggan's definitely one that I'm looking at. I just feel like he could, like I said with Dane Zorko, and we'll say with Callum Mills, he could be in the Mr. Fix-It role, and that's just never a good fancy role. So I'm one to stay clear of Duggan at the moment. Tom Stewart, I think we always say year on year is value, and then suddenly he isn't value just because he finds a way to get injured. But I did really like his role to finish last year, I should say. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with him, as he did have a 26 or something, or 29 in the last game. So take that out and you get like into the 90s or whatever. So and that was an injury game that he was on track for 100. So I wouldn't be surprised if he does go 95 or something in the first game. But if he goes like 140, he could be the type of guy, like I was saying with Holmes, but even more so to the Holmes theory. He's got another 7 points to get to that lower than Holmes. So I feel like he's one of those type of guys that could really, really advance it and go. But there's just too many things hanging over his head that I feel like I would say no to. James Sicily, a guy that I think everyone's almost 8%. I think a lot of it hinges on where does he start in opening round. Does he start in the back line even with their additions of Battle and Barras? Or does he go into that forward line? And if he goes into that forward line, he might be horrific. But if he goes into the back line and plays fourth tall, he could honestly be the best defender. So him alongside the likes of Tom Stewart, but the thing that goes against James Sicily is that they've lost Cal Shadir, I believe, for the opening bit, as well as Mitch Lewis, I think, is still out. I could be wrong about that. So, like, he's kind of being pushed down forward, per se, as they just don't have enough quality down forward at the moment. But he could move to half back halfway through the year and suddenly just go off. So that is almost a watch weekly with the Hawthorn injuries, just to see if he will go down back. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's almost it, other than Carl Amon, I should say, who I just feel like doesn't really have as much value. We're looking at him not changing role. We're looking at him not having any injuries. I don't think any injuries. Lowest to 48, that's not really an injury game. So no role change, no injury change, no discount, and no change of teams or whatever, and no real historical value. I just feel like Carl Amon is going to sit around that 90 marker, which is good for draft, but just not for classic at the moment. So yeah, that pretty much is the Defender Premiums line. It's probably one of the slimmer lines in terms of picks in general. It's a lot of wait and watch, and the only guy I'm really confident in at the moment is a Jack Sinclair, as I feel like he's just done consistently 101s and 102s for the last 3 years. So I would be banking on that, I guess, to get us through this year, even if it is just a D4, D5, and we wait for the value to present in Sheasel, Whitfield, Zorko, Flanders, Nick Martin, etc., as they will present later on in the year. I just feel like you can stack other areas of the field before that and wait and see. And you can also go for a lot of the mid-price madness with the defender line and do a cheeky little upgrade from your bench picks. Guys like that, like maybe a Saad Al-Houli, I might have butchered that, a Toby Travaglio, Bo Allen, all those type of guys, even a Caleb Smith, those will gain value. And within a couple of rounds, if you gain, say, Dane Farrell gains 50, 60, 70k, and then you gain Bo Allen or Toby Travalia gains a good 200k in the first, say, 3 rounds or whatever, or absolutely bangs it, or someone like that does, Caleb Smith maybe, or something like that does, and you have a little bit of cash left over, you could easily get to a Whitfield just like that after his bye, and then suddenly you've sorted that out in that whole situation. You've got 2 primos, you've got the big midfield, etc. So I think that's sort of something I'm more exploring than anything else at the moment with this defender line, as it looks really, really tricky to sort of pick someone, especially with what 4 out of the top 5 guys on the early bye. It's really tricky to find exact value, and one guy having a massive positional change. So like to have none of the top 7 defender averages, it's quite weird in the side, but I guess at the moment that's sort of what I'm running with. But anyway, if you did enjoy that video, remember to like and subscribe, turn the notification bell on so you're notified when more AFL fantasy content comes out. If you are listening on Spotify, give me a follow over there and a 5-star rating, and I will see you guys in the next video, which will hopefully be back to BBL game reviews and content there, and we'll have obviously the round review and round preview, trade targets, etc. videos tomorrow as we skip into another round there. So I'll see you guys in that video. Bye guys.